Well, as you may know by now, here at Engels Coach Shop, I do the work of a wheelwright, a wainwright, a blacksmith, a painter, a striper, an upholsterer, and I am a carriage builder. And I also have to admit, I am a Makita fan. And as all of you know who are tradesmen in all different styles of disciplines, contracting, whatever, when you start a tool line, once you pick that color, you kind of stay with that color, whether it's Milwaukee or Dewalt or whatever it is. I started out with Makita probably 46 years ago, and I'd like to kind of take you through some of the story of some of my tools, where I started and where I ended up, and what I like about them. And as you have probably noticed if you read the descriptions underneath the videos, I oftentimes have a long list of Makita tools. I'm an Amazon affiliate, so I show where you can get these, and there's other places you can get them as well. But at the top of that, I do make a disclaimer. I am not sponsored by Makita. This is not motivated by sponsorship. It is motivated by 46, 47 years of work here in the shop, and this is where I've landed. You know, I've had this thought in the back of my mind for some time to share with you what I have accumulated over the years, and it's almost somewhat kind of embarrassing. You know, it's kind of like going to Alcoholics Anonymous. I've never been there. But they say, you know, when you're addicted to something, the first step you have to do is admit, I'm an alcoholic. And so this is maybe my admission. I am a Makita-aholic. But in all fairness, to give credit where credit is due, Makita hires some really good salesmen. The first one I met was Donald Metz. He works in the Carolina area. And he watches the videos, and he wanted to support himself, not specifically through Makita, but occasionally something would show up in the mail saying, I just appreciate your videos. I hope these will be of help to you. Another one I met just a year ago works for Acme Tool, and his name is Blair Ithmos. And I'll show you a little bit more where he became involved. Well, I don't really have these laid out in a specific order, but I did put at the front of my table here the tool that started me in Makita. This was back when Rick and I were still in business together, and I think this was in 1980. We started actually in about September of '79. And there was a Makita salesman that came in with a 4-inch grinder, and he says, I think I've got something that you just might like. And you have to remember, this is back where they were at their infancy really starting. All of these are the blue color. This tool here was before that. Most everything in here is plastic bodied. This 4-inch grinder is metal bodied. Now I remember visiting with my dad about this 4-inch grinder, and he says, that's not what you want. You want something with some beef to it that you can get some metal ground. I quickly came to find out this is one handy little grinder. So when I started here in the shop with Rick, I was 25 years old. And this is the grinder that showed up. We actually bought it back in 1980. I have had it rebuilt numbers of times, and I literally mean numbers of times. I don't remember how many times. I've had bearings put in it, I've had brushes put in it, rebuilt. Well, it got to the point to where I was starting to buy some of these other style of grinders, and this got set aside, and the shop that always did my rebuilding went out of business. And the tag on this that's riveted on, you can still make out that it is a Makita, but it is so abused and used that you can't really make out the model number. It's just all scratched up and looks like maybe even drug a arc welder across it there. But this tool here is what, 45 years old? And this is where Blair shows up. He came in, I think it was last summer, watches the videos, stopped by to see the shop, and I think he went over to the museum. And he relayed to me that he was a Makita salesman, a rep for Acme Tools. And so I went and I dug this out. I says, you know, I've had this thing forever almost, and I don't have anybody to rebuild it anymore. Do you think you know somebody that could rebuild this? And he said, well, you know, if you're willing to trust me with it, I'll take it back and I'll see what I can do. Well, quite a while went by, and so I sent him a text and I said, whatever came of that 4-inch grinder I gave you? He says, well, they don't make these anymore. It's so old, we don't have parts anymore, and I'm not sure I could find one that I could salvage to rebuild this, so it might be dead in the water. So, well, that's okay. You know, just if you can't fix it, that's okay. Just send it back, and I'm going to put it in our museum. It's that old. And so we left it at that, and it wasn't too long after that that I got a text back, and he says, you know, I found another one that I can salvage the parts out of, and I think I can make it work. And sure enough, it showed back up, fully operable again. I need to get a 4-inch grinder disc to go on this, but this is before what is so common today in the 4.5s. This is back in the 4-inch era. So this was my introduction to Makita. I had a good friend, Lars Steen, who was a cabinet maker here in town, and we would go back and forth shop to shop, and he had a Makita planer, and I didn't have a planer at that time. And he had a little right angle drill that he used in his installations, and I thought, you know, that is just as handy as it gets. Do you remember these? 9.6 volt batteries. Been a long time since we've seen these. This was the second Makita drill that I bought. A right angle Makita drill, 9.6 volt. They don't make these anymore either. And interestingly enough, believe it or not, I still have the charger for that battery. Now it doesn't hold a charge anymore, so I don't use it. But this drill also is probably one that's going to head over to the museum. This has been the second Makita drill that I bought. And the third drill that I bought is this one here. It still has a Makita tag on it. The other tag has been missing, and I have had this rebuilt some years ago. Allen's Tool Repair in Billings, he rebuilt it. And same story, it's a 1/2-inch drill. He said they don't make these anymore. So he had to salvage another drill. I had broken the body on it and he replaced it. And he says, you know, this is a 3-to-1 gear reduction drill. This thing will twist your wrists off if it ever binds up and grabs. It has a place for 2 handles, and legitimately you should really run it with those. This is a monster workhorse 1/2-inch drill, fully operational, and I still use it today. In fact, this is the drill, because it is a variable speed, that I run on my duplicator lathe today still. And after I kind of put this 4-inch to rest, I stepped up into the 4.5-inch category, and I have 3 of these here. These 2 I keep on my welding bench. One is predominantly with a flap wheel, and the second one has a regular grinding wheel. And I keep 2 of them there just because I don't like switching back and forth all the time. This third one is also Makita that I have my chainsaw bit on, and I would never use that freehand, but I fasten that solid to my duplicator lathe, and this is a grinder that I use on that lathe. So I have 3 of these 4.5-inch grinders. And then when I want to get up into the workhorse category, I have 2 7-inch grinders. I keep a flap wheel on the one back on my welding bench. And this one here I keep up a little closer to my table saw up front. And I generally have a disc sander attached to it. But I've had these two Makitas after my Bosch's failed. And this got me into the heavy-duty 7-inch grinders. So up to this point, I'm still pretty much running all corded tools. It was from here on that I started shifting into cordless. Well, they went from the 9.6 to now an 18-volt battery. Very early on, this is one of the first cordless drills that I ended up purchasing. And I used this to the point to where it actually quit functioning. And again, this is where Don Metz showed up. I had bought a Milwaukee as a replacement, and I really wasn't satisfied with it. He says, "What are you doing with that red thing there? What's the matter with your Makita?" And I said, "Well, it's just has kind of gone through its last legs." He says, "Send it to me. I'll see if I can fix it." So in that meantime, I bought this second one. And he sent this back to a Makita rep factory, however that was, and they rebuilt it, and they said it was completely demolished inside, but they rebuilt it, sent it back to me, free of charge, because of Don. And I had mentioned earlier that this 9.6 right angle drill I had purchased, well, it was no longer functioning. So I picked up another right angle drill, again by Makita, and it is just really handy in those tight corners and inside of this framework of these buggies and coaches. I use this a lot. Well, in a video some time ago, I had mentioned that I had a fire in the shop here in 2005. And I showed the process of me taking an air hose and just blowing out everything. I open up both doors, front and back, when I have a windy day, and I blow the dust out, just trying to address that fire issue because I had a spark land in some sawdust and some accumulated corner of dust, and so I try to blow everything out. Anyway, in that video, a number of you mentioned, "Why don't you get a leaf blower?" I said, "I have a lot of air here. I actually have two 80-gallon air compressors hooked together, so I have a lot of air." So Don Metz was watching that, and unannounced, I have a wreck here, unannounced shows up this Makita leaf blower. And I thought, really? I have a lot of air. First time I used this, I was impressed. This moves a lot of air. And I use it to blow out the shop. I use it to blow off the sidewalk in front of the shop. I use it to blow off the snow off of my vehicles. I use it to clean out the shop that I have at the house. I use it a lot. In fact, I actually have my neighbors coming and say, "Can we borrow your leaf blower?" I use that rascal a lot, thanks to Don Metz. And I mentioned in a video following, that is one man that put his money where his mouth is. He not only says, "You should use a leaf blower," he sent me a leaf blower. Thanks. And that really actually opened the door to my interest in Makita tools that I use outside the shop. And this weed trimmer is one that I picked up that I use outside the shop as well. And this is one of those things that you oftentimes don't see me doing. But I have a lot behind the shop here where I have all my old stuff, and I have to keep that all trimmed up. I have the building where the museum is at and where there's a salon there. I have a lot behind that I have to keep cleaned up. I have the hotel that you're all aware of that I am trying to remodel. There's a yard there, so I am trimming around that all the time. We live on just under an acre where we actually live at, and I am trimming that. We have our playground that I've taken you out to a number of times, and there's about an acre there around the buildings that I have to keep mowed and trimmed. I use this string trimmer a bunch, and it has two 18-volt batteries, and it will run about as long as a gas-powered weed trimmer will. I have a steel gas-powered string trimmer that I have used for years when we ranched before. And this 2-battery string trimmer will run equivalent to a tank of gas on my steel. So I have extra batteries. I keep an extra set on the charger, and when this runs out, I swap them out, put the others on the charger, and I can just trim and trim and trim, and I have a bunch of trimming to do. I have worked the daylights out of this string trimmer and nothing but impressed. And I mentioned I am remodeling on my 1906 Smith Hotel, and there's a lot of trim work in there, and I'm taking out windows and fixing that. So I bought this oscillating tool here, and it is amazing how much I use it. I have put on the metal cutting bit, and I have cut through the tin roofing installing stovepipes. It's just an amazingly handy little tool as an oscillating tool. And then I have on the bench here a lighting system that is just really handy. It comes with a carrying bag, and I hardly ever use the carrying bag, but I use this light a lot. It is a telescoping light, which is really nice. So that is full extension. The head rotates, individual lights rotate. And it has a couple different settings for brightness. Well, as you know, we have our place that I call the playground that is off-grid. And I have a pole barn out there that is 20 by 28. And in the wintertime, especially when I can't open things up, I have no light in there. So this is really handy out there. I use it, I say, quite a bunch. We can put this clear up and turn these heads down. And I have a light that shines down. We can point them out. It just has a lot of versatility to it. But yet, all said and done, it folds up and is really compact. There we go. And folds up and is really quite portable. And I'll have to admit, I'm not sure I would have gone and bought this on my own. This was one of those cases, again, where Donald Metz was watching me work at the hotel in the dark corners and tough to see, and this shows up and he says, I think this will help you on your hotel project. Again, quality salesman that Makita hires. Thanks to Don again. And in his thoughtfulness, he is not only just sending tools, but he is sending accessories as well. These auger bits that are like 18 inches long. He has sent a complete set of those. Spade bits, these blades for my reciprocating saw, which we'll get into in a bit. He has sent different components of different driver bits, drill bit sets. He has been very thoughtful in keeping me fully accessorized with Makita accessories. You know, I had a video here not too long ago that I showed bending these twisted rear seat arms on these Yellowstone coaches. And I did it initially using a pneumatic impact hammer. And it's not the most powerful hammer, so I decided to go with Makita, of course. And I went with this Makita cordless impact wrench that puts out 700 to 1,000 foot-pounds of torque. It's got different settings on it. You can increase that. That again, being cordless, is amazingly handy. I can take it out to our playground and I can work on my tractor because I did a whole set of conversions with my 3-point hitch. And I put on full live power, all that type of stuff. And when I have no electricity out there, these cordless tools are just the ticket. And this impact driver has been really nice as well. I can take it out to the alleyway if I am changing tires on a pickup or trailers or whatever, and I'm not dragging air hoses around. I really have appreciated this cordless impact wrench. And when it has come down to working on my pole barn, working on my shed that I have for my water storage, working inside my building, out at the playground there, I have used this little skill saw a bunch as well. It's amazing how much power it has. I use this in all the remodeling of my museum over there. I did it all with this. I put a metal blade on there and I can cut my metal roofing, my metal tin siding. It has just been a really handy saw. And when it has come to remodeling in that hotel, I'm taking out all the old windows, this cordless reciprocating saw has been a real asset. I put on the right blade and you can take all this old stuff out that's got nails in it. It's just a really handy saw, and I use this a lot for trimming brush around that hotel also. It's just a lot safer than using a chainsaw. And this chainsaw is another thing that I have been amazed with. It is a 14-inch saw. And I was a little hesitant when I first got it. You know, I use a Husqvarna saw for my main firewood cutting. And I've used that in the shop here when I want to take a large plank and cut it into shorter sections just so it's more manageable. This has been much nicer in the shop because I don't have that gas engine running. And it's amazing how powerful that is. I use that a bunch, and you have seen that as well. But I use this at the hotel, I use it at the house, just trimming up nice, easy. It's like a lemon saw, you know, lemon trees, and it's really nice. It seems like I just brag on this a lot, but I've used it enough to be really impressed with it. Well, I've got a couple grinders hiding back in here. And this is what they call the X-Lock style. And I think maybe it's a Makita thing, but it's really nice that you don't have to have a wrench to change out from a flap disc to a grinder disc to a cutoff wheel. I really do like this X-Lock factor. No tools required, quick change, really slick. So this runs on an 18-volt battery. And I guess before I show you this other one, I should mention that this one operates with a on-off trigger up here, operated by your thumb. Well, I have another one that is the same, and these are 5-inch, 18-volt as well. And this is a lever trigger. And that is nice. I like that actually better than having my thumb up here. I do have a couple lights here, also battery operated, that I use in the shop a lot. You probably don't see that all the time, but I'll put this in the background just so I get a little bit better lighting. This has two different settings. There's the bright setting, and then there's one that's not quite so bright. That is really handy, and I really like this one. In fact, I use this probably more outside. This has some different settings here. just a really nice bright LED style light. I like that one. I like them both. And I have tucked in here a little portable air compressor. 18 volt, and this little rascal is just really handy. I throw it in the truck to have with me when I'm out on the road in case I have a flat tire or a low tire. I have had people stop here and say, I hear you have air, can I air up a tire? Well, instead of stretching the hose out, I will take this out and air up a tire. It goes up to, I think, over 100 pounds, and it's an on-off setting. It has a gauge here that tells you what your air pressure is. I use this for my tractor, I use it for my lawnmowers, I use it for bicycles, I use it for trailers. I use it a lot, and I really like this little portable compressor. Which also brings me up to this compressor. It is a little bit larger, obviously. It is still portable. Now this runs off of a 40 volt battery system. But I like to run my nailer, my pin nailer, all that type of tool, and I like to take this out to my playground, again where I need power tools and especially my air tools, and this is just the cat's meow. So in the back here I have a vacuum that I use quite a little bit, again primarily geared toward our house out there, but I also use it for vacuuming out vehicles. It's really handy. It has two different settings, power settings. It's amazing how much I use that little portable vacuum cleaner. Now I've got some tooling here that actually is in cases that I have to open up to show you. This is my pin nailer that I use now. I had a Porter cable for a while, and somewhere it sprouted legs. I don't know what happened to it, so I went to this one here. It shoots pin nails from 1 inch up to 2 inches. For a finish nailer, I really like this finish nailer. Then in this case here, you've seen me use most all of these before. This one showed up when I was doing the Borax wheels. It is a electric planer. We took off all the corners of those great big 300-pound blocks to get them onto our lathe in order to turn them. But I use it also, especially in my remodel at the hotel, because I am trimming and fitting, which when you're working with a 120-year-old building, you're always fitting and trimming something somewhere. This box here, again, is something that you have seen me use in the past as well. It is a biscuit jointer. When I am laminating two big sideboards together like I did on that sheep wagon, I use this biscuit jointer quite a bit as well. And then with that impact hammer, I have a set, actually I have two sets, Donald Metz sent me one, of impact sockets. And then this little portable fan is pretty slick as well. It can be run off of a battery, or it has a little plug-in that it can be plugged into a 110 circuit as well. And some of the last tools you've seen me bring into the shop has been this router. This is one of the 40 volt routers. This is a plunge router. I'm really becoming accustomed to using it. I really like it quite a bit. And then this 40 volt sliding compound miter I really have become accustomed to using it. It is smooth, it is accurate. I really do like this saw. And then the last cordless tool to show up has been this scissors. This is a Donald Metz gift again. He said, I know you are going to do a lot of upholstery with leather when you get to finishing these stagecoaches, and I thought you just might be able to use this. And I thought, who would have thought of an electric scissors? Pretty slick. I'm looking forward to getting to use this quite a bit here, not too far in the future. So this is kind of my journey with Makita that started about 45 years ago with that little 4-inch grinder. When a salesman came in and says, you know, I think I've got something that you can really use. And it has been that way ever since. I have just personally liked the tools of Makita. And as you know, I do a lot of things, and I do use them productively and commercially. So I use them fairly hard. Some of these I have totally worn out, like this little drill here, and Makita has been kind enough through their sales reps to repair it and send it back at no charge. That speaks a lot. Now I've mentioned this Blair that rebuilt this old 4-inch grinder. He is the same way. It's just the ongoing legacy in my mind of the salesman behind Makita. They believe in their stuff, and I have used this for 45 years, and I am a firm believer, as you well know, of their tools. Obviously, I'm well vested into it, and this has nothing to do with being sponsored by Makita. I am just convinced, as you well know, of Makita tools. I use them, and I use them productively, and I use them hard. It's a little bit intimidating or maybe humbling when I put them all in one place and go, oh my goodness, I didn't realize really I had this many tools. But I do, and I use them all. The one tool that I don't really use is that little fan. You know, maybe it'll have its place somewhere. But everything else has a specific purpose, and I've been more than impressed and more than happy with. So for what it's worth, this is my Makita mania, my addiction to Makita tools. And so I would stand up and say, yes, I am an addict to Makita tools. Anyway, appreciate you following along. Thanks for watching.